In this episode, we are going to talk about Stanley Kiptum, Arap MANYINYA. At the time of recording this video, he was very healthy. He was very healthy, except of challenges that comes up with age. A person like me, who is a few decades younger than him, have started feeling the effects of aging. So wherever he is, I do believe that if he has any challenges, it is challenges that has got to do with age. It is challenges that has got to do with age. But for somebody who spent most of his time in the GSU and RECCE company and presidential escort, if I were to produce him here and I was to produce somebody who is younger than him by several years or decades, apart from the hair and whatever, you would think that Kiptum Arap MANYINYA is younger than the other person. So any slight challenges that he may be having, it is just strictly to do with his age. I'll talk about him. I'll talk about his early life. After talking about his early life, I'll talk about his joining the police, the GSU that is. Then from there, I'll talk about how he rose. But most of the people, when they talk about him, over 80% they talk about him when he was in the RECCE company. And then around 15 to 20% they talk about when he was with the presidential escort. Wherever he went, he show. Alikuwa na shine. Is that the proper English? Alikuwa na shine. He used to do a lot of things that many of us cannot even imagine. Let us start. He was born on 1st June 1946. He went to Kipsiget Intermediate School. Now, I want to tell you something about intermediate school, because he terminated his education in standard 8 in an intermediate school called Kipsiget. I hope I've mentioned it properly, because we Tachonis are Kalenjins. Now, during those days, CBC is the fourth education system Kenya is having. The third one was 844, and the second one was the one I underwent, which was 763. 763. And he went the earlier one, the earlier standard 8. You know, standard 8 was removed, then it was brought back during 844. Then it has been removed, I hope forever. Now, those days, you could get 3 or 4 nearby schools, primary schools, which were primary schools. And the primary schools those days ended up in standard 4. Primary schools in those days ended up in standard 4. So if you had, let's say, 5 schools here, A, B, C, D, 4 schools, each one ended at standard 4. And then one of the 4 primary schools was called primary and intermediate school. So you find that of those 4 schools, those who passed standard 4 and wanted to go to intermediate school, then they would move to one of the schools which would be called primary and intermediate school. Around 2003, I was at a RECCE TTC, and I passed by a RECCE primary school, and I could see there was a sign written a RECCE primary and intermediate school. So that is what used to happen, that the 3 or 4 schools would just be called primary schools, and then one of them, the central one, would be called primary and intermediate. Now, the school that was called primary and intermediate is the school that used to host standard 1 to standard 8. So he went to a school called Kipsiget Primary and Intermediate. He studied up to standard 8. Okay, let's go back a bit. If you are in standard 4 after primary and you joined TTC, you'd become a P4 teacher. And if you completed intermediate school in standard 8 and you joined the TTC, you'd be a P3 teacher. And if you completed Form 2 and joined a TTC, you'd be a P2. And if you completed Form 4 and joined the TTC, you'd be a P1. And that is why we still have the P1, which is now being phrased out. Now I think you understand there. When he completed standard 8, which was called intermediate, he was called to Kapsabet Secondary School. He was called to Kapsabet Secondary School because he passed very well. But he refused to go to Form 1 for a very simple reason, that he looked at the way his mother was struggling. He looked at the way his mother was bringing them up, and he decided to join the police force. I mean, not just the police force. He decided to work. He decided to work so that through his salary, he can assist his mother he could assist his mother to bring up his siblings. For those of you who are of my age and upwards, will remember many cases we know which are similar to that, whereby especially girls would reach somewhere, and then if the parents cannot afford to educate all of you, first of all they would start with girls, say after all she'll get married, and then if there are more boys and whatever, they would look for a way where either the eldest son would opt out of not working, of not schooling, or even a child who had challenges in school would stop education, so that the burden becomes less to the parents. So, Arap Manyinya, Kiptum Arap Manyinya, many people, very few people, in fact, you'll even find GSU officers, many of them do not remember his Christian name, but we were so much used to his other 2 names, Kiptum Arap Manyinya. Now, the reason why he never went to Form 1 was simply because he felt that his mother was overburdened. So he felt that let me stop going to school, let me start working, so that part of my salary I can be sending to my mother to assist her bring up my siblings. I will say something that we used to talk about him, but you see, there are some personal questions you can never ask. You see, here I'm talking about his mother. I'm not making any reference to his father. And if you look at him, if I remember his face very well during those young, he looked to me to be Chotara, a mulatto. So I had nobody to ask, and I may never know whether it is coincidental or anything. But among Kipsigis, we have so many Kipsigis who are known to look like that. So he joined the police. He joined the police around 1966. I rejoined the police in 1966, but he started studying accounts privately. He started studying accounts privately. And when he's studying accounts privately, I want to tell you that it was a bit of a challenge because accounts is mathematics. Accounts is mathematics. Accounts is mathematics. And he was in the GSU. Now you can guess, for those of you who are doing accounts, how hard it is even by today. And you know, accounts today is very easy because most of the things are computerized. But accounts those days used to be a tough subject because everything was done manual. I remember when I opened my bank account in 1986 or thereabout, uh, banks used to close early so that all the transaction can be placed in a ledger form manually. But nowadays, the account is computerized that when the teller finishes with you, then immediately in a millisecond, the computer just itself does the accounting. So you imagine somebody, standard 8, doing accounts privately, so on and so forth, while he was in the GSU. And you see, those days we used to have accounts college in major towns where people would go to do their lessons from 4 to 6. But here he was in tents in forest in all those hardship areas of Kenya trying to learn accounts. His heart was in the accounts. He rose to the rank of inspector, which I think was in 1970. He became an inspector in 1970. Now, I want to tell you something. Even by today's standards, joining police in 1966 and becoming an inspector 4 years when you are a standard 8, and not just police, GSU, because I attended a GSU recruit course, when they call it a military orientation course. Me, I was a police officer, or I was a general duty, but I attended the GSU orientation course. If the recruit course was that tough, then you can guess about the inspector's course, which they call platoon commander's course. So in 4 years after joining the GSU, he became an inspector. But he stayed in the inspectorate for 9 years. Stayed in the inspectorate for 9 years. It was in 1979 that he was gazetted as a superintendent. I have to tell you one thing. I'm no longer in service, so I don't know whether that thing is still there. But during Kenyatta's time, getting promoted in the police service, if you didn't come from the mountain, it was a bit of a challenge. And again, during Moi's time, if you are not a Kalenjin, getting promotion, especially at the gazetted level, was a challenge. But him, you can see that in 4 years, a standard 8, here he was doing accounts privately in the tents in those distant areas, but yet he struggled and completed the police law exams. During my time and during his time, police law examination were called inspectorate exam, and he became an inspector in 1970. But stayed within the inspectorate for over 9 years. In fact, as I'll come to talk about his professional life, you'll find that he even headed the RECCE company when he was not even a gazetted officer. But I'll come to that. It shows how tough he is. He attended very many professional trainings, both here and abroad, including Israel. Now, when I say including Israel, for a GSU person, don't be shocked, because GSU and NYS had a lot of closeness with the Israel nation, with the Holy Nation. Now, in 1979, he not only attended a gazetted officer's course in Kiganjo, he also attended a course, administrative course at Kenya. Nowadays, it's called Kenya School of Government. I'll write the name in the comment section if I remember. Now, that is him. As I said, he was very much famous for his time in the RECCE company. I want to believe that he was the founding commanding officer of the RECCE company. I want to believe he was the founding whatever. Although the founding, as I've recorded last year, that the founding boss was Bob Morgan. But I would say this, I would say that Bob Morgan was a major in the SAS of Britain. When Kenya attained independence, there was need for the SAS to start an elite squadron for the protection of the then Prime Minister, then later the President, Jomo Kenyatta. That is why Bob Morgan was seconded as a major in the army, the rank between captain and lieutenant colonel. He was seconded to the Kenya Police to start a RECCE company, reconnaissance company. I don't know where people get the name of RECCE squad, but it is reconnaissance company. A squad is a very small thing compared to a company. Several squads make one company. So when you say somebody called the RECCE squad, you are downgrading the formation. When Major SAS Major Bob Morgan started the RECCE company, it was given two functions. It was given two functions. The first function was presidential escort, and the second work was reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is spying, but through military side of it. You'll find that as Kenya grew, the work of reconnaissance company or RECCE company grew, and also the work of presidential escort grew, because when Kenya attained independence, as time went on, new state houses and lodges were being opened, and so on and so forth, and the presidential motorcade grew up in size. So there was need for the two. When Bob Morgan was the commanding officer, it was called RECCE company, but it did two functions. There was the one which was in the field doing reconnaissance, and then there was the one which was at the state house doing the security work. So they would interchange regularly. But it reached a time when there was need to have two different independent companies, each headed by its own commanding officer. The commanding officer for reconnaissance company was given to Kiptum Arap MANYINYA, and the presidential escort was now given to Bernard Njinu. Bernard Njinu. So they were split two. They were made, each one made its own complete company. And then the former, it's like he had two deputies. It's like he had two deputies, or two of his members of inspectorate are the ones who are seen to be fit to take over from him. One was Badat Jin, who took over the presidential escort. He later became the commissioner of police. And the other one who took over the RECCE company was Kiptum Arap MANYINYA. Kiptum Arap MANYINYA now took over the RECCE company. When he took over the RECCE company, that is where he stayed for some time. And that is where his fame is known. I never worked with the RECCE company, and the only time I had with the GSU was a few months that I was there for what we call a military orientation course, because I was going to hardship area. And so, but any interaction, we used to interact, and up to today, I still meet. Up to today, I still meet people who had worked in a RECCE company during Arab Manyinya's time. They talk a lot well about him. They talk well about him. Me, I only met him shortly in West Pokot. West Pokot, we used to have, that was, we during the Wagala time. What I used to hear from the RECCE company, and I still hear those people who worked with him under RECCE company, is that he was not a commander like any other. The other commanders would stay in the headquarters at the radio room and say, Roger, uko wapi? Sijui niko hapa hapo. Hey, piga hiyo kona ingine, sijui nini nini. But he is a person who believed being on the leading from the front. Leading from the front. And leading from the front and working with his personnel really motivated the junior. Imagine you are just the most junior police officer of the rank of constable, and here you have the overall commander of the RECCE company with you. He's the one who's heading your squadron, saying, sorry, wacha nikumbuke kidogo. Men on my left covering fire, men on my right prepare to move up, move. Distance should be kept as low as well. Imagine telling that and during that time, if anything goes wrong, he dies in the field. That is Kiptum Arap Manyinya for you. So people, even some of us who basically didn't work with him, because you see there are those times like Gaisero, he's in Kacheliba na we uko huko msituni huko na Uyapong, about 70 kilometers away, but you form an opinion of him because of those soldiers who are under him, the way they talk about him, and even the few occasions that you meet him, you find that the way you talk to him, he really impresses you. Now, there was this incident that happened in Alale area in West Pokot during those days, pre lottery days. Pre-lottery days. This is what happened. There was a time he was leading his squadron on a foot patrol in somewhere near Alale. As Alale is northwest of Kapenguria, about 100 kilometers, but within West Pokot County. Now, when he was at Alale, he saw some people whom he believed they were bandits. There was an exchange of fire. By then, he was an acting superintendent. Yeah, by then he was an acting superintendent. After exchanging for some time, the fellow who was commanding the other team was disturbed about this person. He formed an opinion that this fellow is commanding his people in a very professional manner, that he was shocked. So he was commanding. He was an acting superintendent, which is nowadays called assistant superintendent of police. He was commanding those people with a chief inspector, his deputy. Actually, what happened? They were nearly killed. Yeah, Kiptum Arap Manyinya was nearly killed at that time, because there was a time when he gave command right flank, and the chief inspector gave left flank. But lucky enough, nobody was killed. But then they continued fighting these people. They fought them for some time. And then the person who was heading the other team, the one who was heading the other team, was disturbed with something. So he did something. He took out his rifle and then hit the cape. There's a style he hit in such a way that the cape, the Kiptum Arap Manyinya's head was exposed. And then this fellow shouted, "Hey, Mzungu, Mzungu." Now, I don't know whether Kiptum Arap Manyinya is half European or anything, because we have so many Kipsigis of that. And what I know is that there is always a reference about, even when we were with him, there was always reference about his mother. Nobody ever made references about his father. But you see, in disciplined forces, you start asking some questions. You don't even think of asking some questions, if I may say so. So we never asked. But he had that light skin, which it's some, you could say that is like Obama, half European, half African. Whether that is true or not, I don't know. Uh, so the fellow told him about his name, and then they went and greeted each other. This was Major Maua. Major Maua, the, the the military wing boss of the military wing of the Ngoroko. The political wing was Lotodo, and Major Maua was the military wing. So they talked, and you see, like anybody else whom you have been to school together, you talk about your classmates. They had met. You know, initially Amin was a friend of Israel. So when Kenya was taking GSU to Israel, uh, Uganda was also taking their military to Israel. So this Pokot from West Pokot, but who had been employed by Uganda Army, was a Uganda Army classmate of Kiptum Arap Manyinya. So they talked and they became, they talked. I said, you know, when you meet as classmates, you start asking each other, "Hey, Bwana, do you know so and so? And how is he? Is he?" I met him. But then after nice talks and whatever, Kiptum Arap Manyinya told them that we are the government and you are terrorists. Now, can you please surrender your firearms and go away? Uh, Major Maua told him, if you feel like, we can go for part two. But then they just parted away in good faith. These are the things that in the military we say, that when you go back, you don't report this, because you'll be, disciplinary action will be taken about it. Still talking about Kiptum Arap Manyinya and his classmates in Israel. Talking about his classmates in Israel, I would also use this opportunity to tell you that during that time, Kenya Army had sent a certain Somali Kenyan to that same class, and Somali Army and Siad Barre had also sent another. There were two captains. Yeah, there were two army captains, and they really looked alike, and they had similar names. But one was a Kenyan, and the other one was a Somali. So people used to confuse the two, because they, even though you may find, even to a person like me who went to Nairobi Technical, sometimes I have problems differentiating Indians, isn't it? And then also some people have hardship differentiating Somalis. But these people had similar names, but they were from different countries. But one time they came and whispered things to their classmates. These were twins born at the boundary of Kenya and Somalia. You see, among the Somalis, you find that, like me, my grandfather was Huatenge, my father was Lando, and I'm Huatenge. So among the Somalis, my father would have been called Lando Huatenge Mumasi. Lando Huatenge Mumasi. My father would be called that. And I would be called Huatenge Lando Huatenge. And if I have a boy, let's say it's called Werunga, then he would call himself Werunga Huatenge Lando. So among the Somalis, and probably among the Muslims, you have just one name. It's not like us, I have James Huatenge. No. To them, they have just one name. The first name is your name. The second name is your father's name, and the third name is your grandfather's name. So these ones, they had the same father and the same grandfather. So the first, and those two twins were classmates of Manyinya and Major Maua. Later on, Arap Manyinya was made, it is very easy. It is very easy for a person who has worked with you. If you are to be the commander of the presidential escort, it is very easy if you have headed GSU formations, or even be, GSU formation, but not the overall GSU officer. Because usually when you are the presidential escort commander, most likely you'll end up as the GSU commandant. Um, but what I would want to say is that if you are overall in charge of RECCE company, it is very easy for you to head the presidential escort, because I told you that RECCE company and the presidential escort started off as one. But you see, presidential escort has developed so much that it is a complete formation, just like GSU. But RECCE company is still one of the several companies within GSU. So his ending up as the commandant of the presidential escort was not a surprise. It was not a surprise. It is normal. So he ended up as head of the presidential escort commander. That was the time when Moi now had this problem of paranoia. You see, Bernard Njinu was the presidential escort commander, so Bernard Njinu was made the commissioner of police. And if I'm not wrong, that is the time now when Kiptum Arap Manyinya became the commandant of the presidential escort. If you know about Bernard Njinu, he was by nature looked like mzee wa kanisa. He looked like mzee wa kanisa. So I hope you understand. So Kiptum Arap Manyinya came, and during those days is when a few years after the attempted coup, and Moi was very, very much paranoid. Moi was very, very much paranoid. And he used to like circumstances where you would come and tell him, mtukufu rais, some people are plotting this and this for you. Vitu kama hizo. And then Moi would even take, and that person would live with a briefcase full of money. It reached a stage where Lee Njiru of the Presidential Press Service, by then it used to be called Presidential Press Unit, together with Kiptum Arap Manyinya, sat down and started countering those things. It was unfair, and even, what do we call it? It was unfair and even sinful for you to go and use that opportunity to have the president shaking all over just because of a briefcase full of money. I remember, if my memory is serving me well, there was a person who went there and said Mama Ngina was organizing to have Moi assassinated. Mama Ngina. Now you can see how people are. So that person, after saying that, he goes away with a briefcase full of money. Another one said that there was some people who are in the forest in Athi River practicing ABCD. And then Kiptum Arap Manyinya together with Lee Njiru sat down, the two of them. You see, having a person with a paranoia like Moi, you try to reason with him, he'll turn against you. And if you remember, there's that case of Raila, when Raila, evidence were given that would have convicted Raila and made him be hanged. But the person who was given the duty to present the issue to Moi was shaking and was very much afraid that he didn't know how Moi would react. And thanks to him, Justice Guy Muli, If Justice Guy Muli would not have been scared or anything, and he would have taken the information to Moi immediately, then Raila would have been hanged long ago. So for you to go and to confront Moi and tell him the truth one on one, it was a bit of a challenge. But thanks to people like I'm not trying to say that it is only Kiptum, Arap Manyinya, and Lee Njiru who did that. There were some people there. There were some whatever, but I'm talking about Arap Manyinya today. Moi was told that there were some people who were hired by Museveni. Was it Museveni? I think it was Museveni. Don't take that one to the bank. That he had hired some people, and these people were being trained in the forest in Athi River. Athi River, kuna forest huko. So Lee Njiru and Kiptum Arap Manyinya undertook it upon themselves to do two things. First of all, to reassure Moi, and on the second way, uh, to reassure Moi, and on the second way, they now started vetting people who are going to see Moi. Who are you who is going to see Moi, and why? What are you going to discuss with him, and whatever? And when you found out that when you found out that that person, the stories, it to do more harm than the people would be ejected. I remember there was some people who went. I don't know where they got the uniform. They had taken some uniform and some guns. The, there is even a belief that they were not even guns. Some people even believe that you see a photograph, especially nowadays, we have these digital cameras, whatever, which can even disclose if your photo is photoshopped or something. But those days we had this other. So if you find a very good carpenter, he could make something that looks like a real gun. So these people are going to see Moi to say that they were being trained and whatever. And Kiptum Arap Manyinya was very, very clever about that, because Lee Njiru, I think he has never handled a gun, ever. So Kiptum Arap Manyinya, a former commandant of the RECCE company, was there, and he would interview those people before they see the president, because being in charge of the president's security, anything happening to the president, hey, wacha tu, let me not even imagine. So Kiptum Arap Manyinya sat with those people one by one. Said, hey, habari mzuri. Okay. Hebu niambie mlifundishwa wapi? Tulifundishwa Uganda, sijui vitu kama hiyo. Na Museveni, vitu kama hizo. Then you would turn to that fellow and say, can you explain one of the formations? Let's say section attack, platoon attack or something. I remember those days, nikiwa at GSU. So you would ask that person such simple question, and then you would ask, which type of guns were you using? And you see, these are people who know that they have done their homework. Wamesoma vitabu. There are some books which used to be called James Hadley Chess. Say 0.38, 0.38 Wesley. Says we are handling GPMG. Yes, you you did that. Mulienda shooting range. Sijui na GPMG or LMG. Sema tu ndio. You see, when you talk, you can learn those things. Hata wengine mkinisikiza sahii mnaweza kram hivyo nimesema. But then he would take somebody say, you did a GPM, you did a AK-47, yeah. Can you take that AK-47, dismantle it, osha, mafuta ndio hii, paka, fanya hivi and whatever. And then baada ya kupaka na baada ya kuosha na nini, ulikuwa nasema stripping and assembling, fanya hiyo. And Kiptum hakuwa na haraka. Alikuwa, let me tell you one thing. In GSU training school, stripping and assembling of a gun, we did it to an extent that we used to close even our eyes. Unafungwa blindfolded. You are given a gun to strip and assemble it. when you're blindfolded in GSU training. Bwana, mimi nimejifunza vitu mingi. Anyway, but these are people who are saying that they were taught in a neighboring country, preferably Uganda, and they were taught bunduki kama liai. Liai. Oh, you are taught in liai. What were you told about liai? FN. Bunduki kama he says tulifundishwa ABCD. Listen, and you know the best way to cheat somebody or the best way to fool somebody is pretend that unajua ukianza kubishana unaanza haiwezekani sijui nini, you can't get intelligence. If you want to get good intelligence, pretend that you believe yeah you look to be very good in yeah sasa mlistrip liai inatumia risasi kaliba gani? The fellow says 0.38. Say, kumbe unajua, but you know liai uses 7.62. Anamdanganya tu hivyo hivyo. Kiptum Arap Manyinya. Then from there ampeleka another room, anamwambia hata usifunge macho. You see, Omwana wa Papa Land was taught how to strip and assemble different guns while blindfolded, isn't it? But this is a fellow who has said that we have been sent to kill Moi, and with these are the guns we were taught and whatever. And then he's not even blindfolded, he's just told, can you strip and assemble that? I did not want to talk something bad about Kiptum Arap Manyinya. But forgive me. Hawa jamaa ile kuchapwa walikuwa wanachapwa. Those guys were beaten. Hey, wacha tu nisiseme. I think he may not even approve. This fellow, Kiptum discovers that this is the first time you have ever come near a gun. Tandikwa mangumi manini, utafanya nini? You see, you are there with him and he has about 20 GSU officers are surrounded. Na wewe mwenyewe kwanza unatetemeka huko State House and whatever. This fellow would beat you. Hata afadhali Big E wa WWE akupige bwana. Anyway, one of my ambitions is one day to visit him and have a cup of tea with that great Kenyan. Thank you.